What is up, guys? Welcome to the channel. My name's Micah, and today we have a Honda Fury here, the Japanese chopper. So I've been trying to make up my mind about this motorcycle for the last 15 years on whether I liked it, hated it, thought it was just weird, and I never have come to a conclusion. So I figured we better pick one up so that we can just get our hands on it, we can look at it in person, ride it, and get a better idea of what this motorcycle has to offer. So we are gonna cover absolutely everything about this bike. We're gonna walk around it, get a closer look at everything. We'll go over the features, the specs, the practicality of it, and of course we'll go out and take it for a ride. We'll see how this raked out Honda Cruiser actually does on the streets. This is just gonna be a super fun day, guys, so I can't wait to rip into it. So without further ado, let's dive right in. So first, we gotta get the 360 on this bike. We gotta see exactly what we are working with here. So the bike in front of us, it's a 2010 Honda Fury, so the first model year for this bike. So this bike was released mid-2009 because there was kind of a resurgence in the chopper fad. You know, we had shows like American Chopper that started in 2003, and that was seemingly giving the chopper style motorcycle new life. You know, it was really popular in the 60s, 70s, and then kind of died out in the 80s. But American Chopper hit the TV networks in 2003. It ran for 7 seasons and then was discontinued in 2010. Now, Honda had been designing this motorcycle for 2 years before it was released, and I can't imagine how Honda must have felt right as they released this bike. The chopper fad was over. So right from the get-go, this bike kinda never had a chance. It's so different, you know, it only really appeals to that chopper crowd. So for the Fury's whole life, it's kind of been looked at as just an oddball, as kind of an out-of-place motorcycle. But despite it not having the popularity that Honda was hoping it would, these bikes have always appealed to me, or certainly grabbed my attention. Now, when talking about chopper-style motorcycles, you know, everybody, what comes to mind is just the crazy and eccentric Orange County choppers and stuff like that that's crazy colors, just crazy features and parts on them. So when comparing the Fury to some of those choppers, it's relatively reserved and tame. This bike really does just have an elegance to it, a very posh presence. And with this motorcycle being designed by Honda from the factory like this, I mean, Honda makes some of the best motorcycles in the world. So when Honda makes a chopper, the finished result is extremely well executed. So let me just point out some of the features and specs, some of the engineering that really just makes this bike stand out. Now, and I will say our bike has a few parts on it that are not going to be factory. The first one is going to be the turn signals. So these are the Karayakin lenses, the bezels. So you have the factory turn signal here, but we just switched out the lens. So that is kind of a chrome housing there. It has a clear lens, an amber bulb in it. So it's not just the whole yellow, bright orange lens that it came with from the factory. All the reflectors and kind of eyesores around the bike have been removed. We do have the small fly screen that was offered for this bike. I mean, it really just keeps bugs off your speedometer right there. It doesn't really do too much to shield the rider. Our bike does have just a universal chrome spiked motorcycle grip. I've used those exact grips on a lot of different bobber builds. Now, the exhaust system that we have on our bike is going to be the Cobra Speedsters, the swept style exhaust, and that just looks so fine on this bike. It sounds the part too, which you'll soon hear. We do have those same turn signals on the rear, and I do have a smoked taillight on the way, so that'll be getting switched out. I do have a little sissy bar for the rear seat as well. But other than those minor parts, the rest of the bike is totally factory. Now, one of the first things that's extremely obvious on this bike is just that all the wires, cables, harnesses, everything is routed and tucked, and it is just so clean. You do not see choppers look this clean. But when they're engineered from the factory like this, of course, this is the direct result. The right side of the motorcycle is definitely going to be the show-stopping side. You have the exhaust, you have the open face of the wheel, so the rotor is on the other side, and that 21-inch brushed aluminum wheel just screams. And the rake angle that Honda decided to go with on this motorcycle, it's pleasing. It's not too much, it's not too little. It definitely gives the bike that chopper look, but it's practical, it's functional. This bike is actually a joy to drive. I've only taken it on one drive, and that was driving it home in the rain right after I bought it, which I don't even think we can count that as a real drive. So today will be the first maiden voyage. Now we have to mention the neck of the motorcycle. I mean, the frame, everything, how it's engineered and executed here just looks so elegant. Cables are routed nice and tight. I mean, at a quick glance, you do not see any cables on the neck of this bike. And Honda did a good job up near the handlebars to kind of tuck and keep all of those cables and wires neat. Now the Fury actually got a fuel injected VTX 1300 motor right from the get-go, whereas the VTX 13 did not. And that motor with those big chrome valve covers, the big chrome airbox, just the angle of the V, that is an amazing looking V-twin engine. And Honda had color matched the frame to the color of the motorcycle for these early models. Since then, Honda's done a few different things with the colors, but these early models just look so clean with the frame matching the gas tank, the fenders. I do like the chrome side covers, and you can absolutely see your reflection in that. I mean, the chrome looks great. This bike is mint condition. I looked long and hard for an example like this. Now the seats, Honda did make one of the most matched, perfectly fitting seats that this motorcycle could have possibly had. It just has a very seamless look coming from the gas tank, running down, and then up over that rear fender. It's pleasing. For a factory stock seat, that just fits this motorcycle so well. Now the gas tank is another great part about this bike. I mean, this extremely long teardrop shaped tank. I don't even know how long this is. It's gotta be getting close to 30 inches long. And at the base here by the seat, I mean, look how skinny it is. My hand can easily go around. I could just grab the gas tank right there. Very, very different from a lot of cruisers out there. But this skinny gas tank has a direct effect to the rider's experience, and that is that when you look down, when you're sitting on this bike, you can just see the engine on both sides. I mean, very easily. It sticks out on either side from the gas tank there. So as you're riding this motorcycle, you get such a sense that you are just sitting on an engine rocketing down the road, and it is a good feeling to say the least. And Honda chose to give us an extremely clean drivetrain, so they put a shaft drive system on this motorcycle, and this just makes the Fury look so clean versus having, you know, chain and sprockets or belts. And shaft drive systems are so low maintenance, you know, it's just a rider's style of drivetrain. Now, I personally am always so picky about my handlebars, but Honda did a great job on these. So they have quite a long pullback just with the geometry of the bike, you know, to get the handlebars to the rider without him having to lean forward and reach for him. Honda had to do a shape like this, but it's funny because once you're sitting on the bike, once you get a view from behind, they do look like almost like a broomstick bar or a drag bar. They look like they are very straight, and it's not until you get up on the side that you then see that long pullback that they have. So the handlebars kind of look different on this bike depending on what angle you're at. And of course they perfectly clear and hover over that gas tank when turned. I mean, everything about that shape was very well thought out. The execution of the handlebars in combination with the gas tank, very, very nice. As far as gauges, you just get your speedometer here. It does have an odometer and trip digital readout over on the side. And this black strip at the bottom here is what will have all of your indicator lights. So your turn signal, high beam, temperature, engine light, neutral. It's all down there, but it blends in. It just works really well. It looks slick. Now, as far as differences and changes that Honda made to the Fury over the years, I mean, they really have been just minor. They've really just been colors and slight cosmetic changes. So you wouldn't think that that would change the bike very much, but it actually does. So the funny thing for me, and maybe everybody else is different, chime in the comments, but the old Furies, the original Furies, they had chrome for the triple tree, whereas the new ones are black. They also had chrome or brushed aluminum fork legs, and then they had that kind of silver wheel package on it. The Fury did start here with the chrome valve covers on the engine and the engine cases. The engines themselves now are a black color, the new ones are. And even your controls up here and levers, you know, the newer ones have gone to that black. And Honda's done, you know, some crazier, more eccentric, some wilder colors on this bike. And I think having the chrome equipment would really match any color that Honda has done over the years, but the random black parts that Honda has decided to do just make it look out of place, you know, when you have chrome forks going up to a black triple tree, you know, when you have, say, a yellow motorcycle, for instance, that has some stainless or brushed colored things, but then some just like matte black on it. Some of the later model Furies just look like a child designed them, whereas this 2010 looks like it was expertly crafted and engineered. So that's one change that these bikes have gone through over the years that I am not a fan of. Now, as far as some quick specs and performance data on the Honda Fury, so this bike with the 1312cc V-twin, it puts out 57 horsepower and 79 foot-pounds of torque. So that is really nothing special there. I mean, this is not some muscle cruiser by any means. Now, that's absolutely enough power and torque to power you down the highway at any interstate speed in the nation. The bike trucks around just fine with no problems, but it's not fast. Now, our bike has a wet weight of 663 pounds, and the wheelbase is over 70 inches long. But with how this bike was designed, it wears its weight so low. Taking this bike off the kickstand is effortless. You know, a 650-pound Harley feels like a brick compared to this bike when you're sitting on the two. Now, there's a lot of reasons, there's a lot of people who like to hate on this motorcycle out there. And like I said, I haven't decided if I love it or hate it yet myself. But I've really noticed two different reasons that people dislike this motorcycle. The first is just the looks. You know, a lot of people think that, well, a chopper has to be handmade, you know, it has to be built by someone in a garage. You know, you can't possibly have a chopper and it was, you know, made by a major motorcycle manufacturer. So this bike kind of breaks the norm there, but you get so many perks with it being made out of the factory like this by that major motorcycle manufacturer. It's a joy to ride. It looks so clean. I mean, the rideability of this bike compared to some custom-made chopper, I mean, it's not even comparable. It's like comparing a dune buggy to a Cadillac. But the performance is another huge reason that people dislike this bike. You know, a lot of people say, oh, well, it's not fast, it's so slow, la-da-da-da-da, but they fail to understand Honda never designed this to be fast. This was never supposed to be a muscle cruiser. This was just to be the cool kid on the block, to be different, to be wild. And that's so obvious when you see the VTX 1300 motor in it. You know, if Honda wanted to make a performance muscle bike chopper type deal, I mean, why wouldn't they have put the VTX 1800 motor in it and started with that? So it's the people that have the idea that this is going to be some high performance machine, that this is going to be some street demon, some missile on the road. You know, those are the ones who get disappointed and don't like the Fury. But if you understand what Honda was going for, if you understand why this bike was designed, it's hard to not be perfectly pleased with the result. So when you have one of the best motorcycle manufacturers in the world make you a chopper, the finished product is unbelievable. The rideability, you know, just the feeling of it, the execution of everything is really second to none. And I think that's enough blabbing for now. Now we're gonna go gear up. We are gonna hit the streets with this thing and see just how furious it is.
All right. Our first real cruise on the Honda Fury. The key, the ignition down on the left side there. I'll go stand on the right side here so we can hear that exhaust. Let's see if she fires. She sounds good. She sounds thunderous. I mean, if you have a bike that looks like this, it has to sound like that, right? I mean, it's required. So my first ride when I was bringing this bike home, it was raining out. I had almost a flat front and rear tire. The battery was hooked up wrong, so it kept like cutting out as I'm riding. So a horrible first ride, right? I mean, it's not like we could really experience this bike as it's meant to be, but now we can, and she feels good. Like I said, my view, I mean, that engine is just right between my legs there. You just see it on both sides. Wow. It's cool. This bike is cool. I don't care what anybody says. Whew. And here we go. Well, I wish we would have been filming here. I had to fill up with gas, and we pretty much took the gas station by storm. All kinds of people were driving up to us like, oh, nice bike, nice bike. And not one person asked what it was, so I think they all thought it was just totally a one-off custom. But now our journey can begin. I think the gas in this motorcycle is 3 years old. The gentleman told me, who I bought it from, said that he hadn't driven it more than 100 miles in 3 years. Most of its life, through his ownership, it had just sat in a storage unit. So we put 2.5 gallons in it. The gas tank is 3.4 gallons. And these bikes, I've looked up a bunch of different numbers online, and it seems like they average 46 miles per gallon. So not too bad. But hopefully, it was sputtering just a little bit as we were driving to the gas station here, so hopefully that 2.5 gallons of fresh gas will kind of clean up that system a little bit. Oh man, I just feel like the baddest man on the planet on this. Wow. Good sound at idle with the Cobra exhaust on it. Kind of has a good lope to it. It's not going to be the potato Harley sound, but Honda did good. And it's funny, I did notice that in driving this thing around like the parking lots and stuff, you absolutely notice that wheelbase. Put my visor down so you can hear me better. Oh man, nice thunderous sound. But now that wheelbase, so it's interesting, right? The longer the wheelbase, the less nimble, the less agile the motorcycle's gonna be, right? But with it being engineered from the factory, oh, turn signal was on. It's my first day riding. But with Honda engineering this bike from the factory, I mean, this just cruises 10 times better, 100 times better than any other, you know, homemade chopper. I love to make bobbers and cafe racers, and I tell you what, none of them have cruised this well. Gosh, we're going a little bit fast here. We better slow down. This thing is just so smooth and so planted. There's probably a bunch of different reasons for that. That 663-pound wet weight, that long wheelbase, that it wears its weight so low. I mean, all that weight is so low slung. And this bike feels about half its weight when you're riding it, which is always what you want on a cruiser. You want it to be an easy, carefree experience. Oh man, last time I took that roundabout was on our CDR 1000. And I would say that this feels slightly different. Now, Honda chose to put a 5-speed transmission in this. And I'm never opposed to a good 5-speed. The gears feel very wide on this. So you can see I'm at 60 miles per hour right now. I'm just barely on the throttle in 5th gear. So it's geared pretty wide. I mean, these are electronically limited at 99 miles per hour, actually. But if it wasn't limited, you know, if we had a ECU flash done to pull that limiter off, I don't know how fast this would get up to with the factory gearing. My guess would be around 125 maybe, somewhere in that area. But it feels really good. I love where the RPMs are at just 60. I mean, they're so low. We'll kick it up to 75 here. See what that feels like. Slightly raised RPMs from where it was, but it doesn't feel like it's screaming or revved out or anything like that. Now it's funny because just for what this bike is, I mean, the way it looks, the big V-twin power plant, you know, a lot of people are just going to compare this bike to Harleys and Indians, you know, the big American V-twin manufacturers. And, you know, when you ride a Harley compared to this, a Harley just feels a little bit more unrefined, actually worlds more unrefined. Whereas when Honda makes a V-twin, the sound and feel of it. Oh, the Honda takes it for me. The Honda takes the cake. Man, just the feel of the bike and the sound when you're just rolling on throttle. Oh, man. The sound is so deep. It is so deep and full. I think we'll give Honda and Cobra the kudos for that. But yeah, just the way that V-twin feels, very, very nice. It's just, this feels luxurious. I mean, it feels luxurious. Revving it up through the gears. I'm gonna get a speeding ticket. I wouldn't say that this is as slow or underpowered as people make it out to be. Actually, it seems totally the opposite. I mean, for the weight of this bike, I'm not a very heavy guy, but for the weight of the bike, you know, I am very surprised how well that 57 horsepower and 79 foot-pounds of torque hauls it around. Actually does really, really well. And as far as like, yeah, you can weave throughout the lane, feels just buttery smooth. But it's funny, once you get this to urban environments, you know, in the city, those metropolitan areas with tighter turns and other streets that you're turning onto, you get some parking lot action going on. The bike just feels like nothing else, and it's just the wheelbase. The experience is very strange. Like, where even is our front wheel? I don't know. It's a mile up the road. It's so far away from you. You can't see it or nothing. But the handlebars with that nice pullback, you know, that they just come and meet you. I mean, they're exactly where you want. My elbows, so I'm 6 foot, and my elbows don't have some bend in them. You know, as far as like how high or low the bars are, I mean, I would say they're probably 5 inches under my shoulders. So it feels just really natural when my hands go out to grab the handlebars. I mean, they're right where you want them to be. Or at least for me. Oh, this bike is cool. I cannot wait to put my 360 camera on here and go for a cruise and just get people's reactions. Get people caught in the act of staring this bike down. Because it does just, oh my goodness, this bike just breaks necks. It demands, it screams at you for your attention. Whether for better or for worse, I mean, the more I ride it, the more I'm thinking it's for the better. But, yeah, I don't know. This is just such a unique bike. I mean, what other brand is making a factory chopper? Now, there's definitely other cruisers made by Japanese manufacturers and Harley and stuff that kind of have a greater angle to the rake. But as far as having the long forks, having that accentuated neck, you know, on the bike that goes above the engine and really just, you know, grabs your attention, I don't think any other cruiser offered right now currently even really compares or is in the chopper class. And I don't know, it sounds weird to say that this is in the chopper class because, I mean, for me, that chopper, you know, traditionally it always was just most likely a Harley. And it's been made, you know, somebody cut the frame and somebody raked it out and somebody chose those longer forks. And, you know, choppers traditionally, when I think of them, are much more accentuated than this bike. And you may have a 1300. That might sound like a big engine to some people. But this thing is just so smooth. Oh, if you just want to putt around and smell the roses. Wow. I mean, this is effortless. Bike just feels like it drives itself. It is so comfortable. It's very, very comfortable. Broke his neck, broke her neck. Give us another neck to break. To give you guys an idea on that gearing, like we're at 40 miles per hour exactly here, and I am just barely idling in third gear. So it is a very wide ratio, but the enjoyable thing about that, with each of those gears being a little bit longer, a little bit taller, when you really grab a wristful of throttle in some gears, it just, you really get to hear that motor sing from a lower RPM to a higher RPM. You know, it's not like you're shifting all the time like wah, wah, wah. I mean, it's just a wah. I mean, you really just get to hear each of those notes and each of those gears. Maybe that sounds funny to say, but it kind of makes for an enjoyable experience, actually. It's not fast like a sport bike or something, but gosh, you feel so cool. You feel like a cool cat on this, and maybe it looks hilarious, but you can't see that. You're the one riding it. These roundabouts, you know, I really enjoy roundabouts on motorcycles, and I haven't made up my mind if I enjoy them on this or not. It's, you know, if you want a bike to really carve up the canyons and take the twisties, it's not a Honda Fury. I can just tell you that right now. How does it handle? Oh, it handles so light on its feet. It feels really, really comfortable. But that long wheelbase just makes it a little bit less agile, a little bit less sharp on the turning and stuff. And of course, I had to put on the cowboy boots for this cycle, because this does feel like a steel horse. Well, and we'll just turn and cut through this lot because it has a few corners and turns that we can take, and we can really make up our mind about those. Going down, I just feel like I'm gonna scrape the pegs on every turn. This bike really leans over a lot. Well, and what I mean by that is it feels like you're leaned way over, but you aren't turning that fast. Like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm just laying completely on my side. Probably just has to do with kind of the geometry of the bike. And then you do feel, you know, you're about sitting on the rear tire. You know, certainly sitting on the front of the rear tire as far as where your body is on this motorcycle relative to the front or the rear. So it's interesting, when riding this bike, you feel like you're steering it from the rear. It's different. It's not bad. Oh man. Oh, that's so fun. I gotta slow down again. I ain't going too fast. Well, maybe this is a little bit quicker than I thought it would be, or than paper suggests it should be. Gosh, you pull up to a stoplight and you just know that all eyes are on you. They 100% are. What are they thinking? I don't know, maybe that the bike's just super unique, super cool. They're blinded by all of the chrome on a sunny day. Maybe they think you're the dumbest person ever, or trying to relive your glory days of the 80s. Or maybe they think that you just never quite got over American choppers. Tight turn. Well, and I think that's something you just kind of got to get used to. Kind of the feel of this bike, that long wheelbase. Just the handling of this bike is so unique. Gosh, this thing is as long as a school bus. But it's so easy just to drive nice on it. Just to cruise. Man, that was a very enjoyable ride. I mean, and the bike has performed great. That V-twin, the liquid cooling, the shaft drive. Everything about this is awesome. This bike, I'm having some different thoughts about this bike. This bike is making me feel a certain way. Well, let's really give her the beans on the throttle here and see. I think we bounced it just barely on the rev limiter there. Man. Super fun.
Well, on a ride like that, on a bike like that, calls for an ice cold beer. Today it's the Easy Eddie Hazy IPA. Gosh, this motorcycle is doing something weird to me. I've got the hat on backwards. I don't know if you guys have ever seen the hat on backwards. The leather, the boots, man, we're going all out. So in coming to a conclusion, in summarizing everything, what do we think about the Honda Fury? I don't know. It's just so different. This is such a wild card right from the get-go. You know, at the end of the day, this is just not going to be a motorcycle that is for everyone. It is quite different than everything out there. And what really sucks is that the success of this motorcycle has been so limited because of timing and trends. The trend of the chopper kind of came back. It had that resurgence in early 2000s, and that trend was that fad was so short-lived, you know, from about 2002, 2003 to about 2010. That was kind of the era, the second wind, I guess, for choppers. And choppers will always be popular with people. People have liked choppers for a long time, and so to those people, to those enthusiasts, it's a timeless style of motorcycle. It will always be cool, and of course I will always appreciate them as well. I mean, gosh, I enjoy all different types of motorcycles, but then the timing, you know, Honda was working on this bike for 2 years, and then when they released it mid-2009, the bike being that 2010 model year, I mean, that was just at the time where choppers fad died. I mean, they lost popularity right as this bike was being released. So I kind of feel for Honda. You know, I feel bad for Honda because whatever your opinion of choppers may be, at the end of the day, Honda did a good job on this bike, this motorcycle, the Honda Fury, the VT 1300CX. It is well executed. It is well executed, to say the least. I mean, everything about this bike, thought has gone into, time. I mean, it is an engineering marvel that they could make a bike look like this and ride as good as it does. I mean, you have all the things in place for this bike to last a long time and be minimal maintenance. I mean, that it can look like that be ultra reliable, and be the most carefree motorcycle ever to maintain. It's really amazing, and Honda did a great job at nailing the mark that they were going for. So in conclusion, what do I think about the Fury? Would I recommend this motorcycle? Well, if you're into chopper style motorcycles, I think you have a good one here. Like, is it practical? Well, it's the most practical for what it is. This is an excellent chopper option for you to get. Beyond that, I know I will get murdered by all of the Honda Fury haters out there. I mean, it's a showstopper. I'm sorry, it is. And if you don't believe me, jump on a Honda Fury and take it to your nearest gas station. So it's good. I give the Honda Fury an A+. And of course, like the video if this helped you out. Subscribe if you want to see more. And until next time.